Hey everyone, thanks for joining me back to the class on Master Data Tables in Claris FileMaker Pro. This series, we're going to look into CSS, basically styling and rendering our data tables to make it presentable and pretty. And there's a lot to learn in here. There's a lot of different ways you can do things, but I'm taking my best shot at trying to teach you guys how I taught myself and, lessons learned. There's multiple ways to do things. So preamble here is, this is not the only way to make your data tables presentation look good. I'm just going to show you what I've learned, things that do work, things to watch out for. But let's get started and see what we're going to cover in this series. All right, we are talking about the data tables builder and the presentation. We have now collected data. We've added some integrations that we can do things with. But finally, we want to be able to say, hey, let's put this in front of the user and have them go, oh, this is really well done. I like what you've done here. We're going to take some things and we're going to learn about, basic formatting, styling, adding, how do you change the buttons that we just added and make them do something. What we're really going to go from at the beginning of this lesson is taking something like this and turning it into something like this. And so that's the whole series, is just to progressively show you where you change the styling, what you need to look out for, how you add it, what you can tweak to make it your own personal statement. All right, so some things you need to know about the builder is where we're going to be working in this lesson. Mainly, we are going to be dealing with the CSS tab. So when we talk about that, we are looking at all of the custom CSS we're going to add that is over and above what comes out of the box with data tables or the libraries that you've added. So we're going to hop into those lessons, but we also are going to be dealing with other areas. We're going to be talking about the HTML tab. There's some stuff we can do in there. And then there's also in the JS functions, some ways to change our styling in there. So be prepared as we go through. We're just going to learn more about data tables, where you have to put the code. The more practice you have with it, you'll be like, oh, now I know where to go to change some of this values. Okay, so we're going to cover a lot. There's going to be about 5 or 6 lessons here. And the first one we're going to talk about is actually formatting the data tables itself. So we're looking at the table, like what's the font? What's the, does it have lines? What does it appear to be? So we're going to focus on that. On our second lesson coming through, we're going to talk about designing the elements. So, the pagination at the top or the search box. Natively out of the box, they just come the way they are, but we have control over what that looks like and where they're positioned and the fonts and just how it's stylized so it could fit the needs of your customers. Then we're going to move into talking about column formatting. So the data that's in your presentation, how do we do alignment? Can we change the colors of the font and the sizes? Can we do all of that? And there's actually going to be 2 ways to do that. So we're going to look into using classes, and then we're also going to look into using that same feature with render functions. And that's where we're going to be in the JS function tab. So really important designations to figure out, this is where we talked about where we have multiple ways to do something, but I'm going to show you each way and you can choose your own path. And there's probably a need to do one versus the other, and that's going to come to you as you learn the system and try to figure out how data tables works. And then finally, we're going to talk about formatting with graphics. That's the fun stuff. Hey, adding a button, stylizing that button. Let's add an icon. Let's add a progress bar. Let's do a little bit more hefty stuff, the visualizations with your graphics. And so we're going to look at that. And I have this highlighted down at the bottom, like conditional formatting, but that's really going to play into all of these at the end, where we say some condition like, hey, if this value is greater than 100, then format it like this, else do that. That's the kind of conditional formatting I'm looking for. So that final lesson there will recapture some of the stuff what we've done, and we will be on our way to presenting you with something that you can say, I really learned how to present my data to my customers, clients, and myself, and have something that really looks finely tuned and sharp. So as I've talked about in the past, what we're going to do in this series 5 is we are now have all the reports will be identified with a 5.0 designation so that you can find them easily. I've locked all the existing builds, so prior to that, so we don't make changes to those accidentally. There's a few things I've added to this database. And as I've said before, your best bet is to really just take this demo file from 5.0 or 5.1 and start from there, because so many changes are made from lesson to lesson as I build it out. So one of the main things that we've done is added a new data set called financials. And I've also added a script, and I'll show you that in the first lesson that we get into. We can use the context, and we're going to probably present some new design things there, but I'm also bringing in a new data source just so we can have a little bit more fun and play and see how we can progress this actual report into something that's cool for maybe a stakeholder, a financial stakeholder. And I've added a couple new buttons to assist with the CSS process. So along with that, and I'll show you that in the demos, is I'm helping you by putting the correct CSS styling into the template so that you know how to add your own styling and build from there. And then once we get into the columns builder, I've had a kind of a hefty load in there to be able to allow you to add new CSS classes quite easily with the builder, and how to add render functions and how to add buttons and style them in there. So it's much more, the UI has been improved to assist with this lesson, not so much the functionality. It's just, it has additional functionality to help you guys. And then of course there's script changes that always have to have an impact when I make these UI things. So I've modified some templates now with some information to help with this lesson, and basically just improved any bug fixes I found and stuff like that. So if you're starting with this file to learn about CSS, grab the latest demo file from our blog and make sure you start from scratch there and get all the latest code. All right, we are going to start looking into the designing of our table in the next lesson. Join me there.